Welcome to Passion Personified, a podcast series where we feature young student entrepreneurs and valuable life lessons from it. This is our first episode, and we have with us a mentor, an educator, and a manager of SPINOFF, Singapore Polytechnic's Entrepreneurship Center, Rafael Alzate.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having us here. I like the way you pronounce my name.
I got it correct?
You got it correct. Most of the time I hear Rafael. All right.
Yeah.
But actually, it is Rafael, and sometimes even growing up, I hear Rafael so many times I forget what my real pronunciation is. But yes, you got it right. Thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
Before we go on, I must say it's a pleasure to be here today with you and rebound with resilience. Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, yeah, for sure. This took a while, but I'm very excited because education is not just about the textbook and four walls, right? It's also about audio-visual engagement, and I just appreciate your passion for education. And I'm so looking forward to featuring the entrepreneurs you have molded, you have groomed, and the lessons they learn from it. Yeah, so of course, this is the first episode, right? We're going to just set the foundation, talk about everything entrepreneurship, what is it, why entrepreneurship, misconceptions, how to go about. And of course, this is a collaboration between SPINOFF and Rebound with Resilience. So we are very excited to do the first episode.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, let's get straight into it. Outline for today, we're going to just know a little bit more about Rafael because he is the life of this center. I heard a lot of good things from your students about you. I just want to know your journey as an entrepreneur yourself, as well as how you pivoted into education. And finally, about entrepreneurship.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't really take too much credit for the success of our startups and for the ecosystem that's being built. SPINOFF is part of a larger ecosystem here. A whole innovation platform that is founded by Singapore Polytechnic to groom our future entrepreneurs, our future nation builders. But yes, the center is the forward-facing arm and the entrepreneurship center of our oldest polytechnic, so naturally, we do play quite an important role. So let's go straight into it, right?
Okay.
SPINOFF, again, we groom entrepreneurs here, and we have a very good connection with all the other departments and basically everyone that is here in SPINOFF. It takes a village really to groom an entrepreneur, and everyone plays that part. But within SPINOFF itself, we have many startup founders that actually come through us. But of course, when they came through us, they were still
students, right? Okay. We'll deep dive into that in a bit, right? But I want to know about your own journey first. Let's talk briefly about that. As a student in university, you started multiple businesses. That's where entrepreneurship started for you. Share with us a little bit more.
So it's very interesting, right? When I speak to some students or potential founders, right, and they go, actually, university is the hardest time to actually really start a business. You have to juggle with family, you have to juggle with school, you have to juggle with so many commitments. But back in the day when I did it, I actually felt that university, or when I was in education, right, it was the easiest time.
Right.
The easiest time. It is the time you start something because you have so much ecosystem support. Your lecturers are there to help you along the way. If you have no clue what's going on, you need guidance, you need mentorship. Everyone is there, and the access to labs, to facilities, to basically everything that you really need to get going in life. So that was when I started it. I started my businesses, right? But it wasn't really in Singapore. I spent a good decade in Australia, and that's when I got everything going. I started it while I was actually in class. It was in Australia, and one of the cheapest vehicles actually. Maybe I wouldn't use the word cheapest, right? Maybe more affordable. Pocket-friendly vehicles was actually old, very very old carbureted engine vans and so on. So that was something I bought, and along the way, people were actually asking me, hey, you've got a van. Are you able to help me shift house? Right? Sure, why not? After doing a few times, I thought, okay, and now I'm providing a service. This service seems to be consistent. It seems to be, the request seems to be there every odd day.
Right.
Can I charge for it? Right. So then that's where I started. I thought, okay, let me try and charge a little bit for it, and voila. It's a service that actually people was willing to pay for it. So that was basically one of my first businesses.
Sure.
And then from there I moved into something else.
recruitment as
recruitment
well.
and so on.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the lessons, right? That's a great summary. I love it. I love it that you mentioned about you kind of tie to the audience as well. Listening to this might be students, wherever stage of life you're at. Especially if you're students, there is a lot of support currently.
Yes, correct.
And also perhaps arguably less responsibilities. You don't need to send your kids to school.
You don't pay mortgage, man. You don't pay the mortgage. You don't pay loan installments or anything like that. Yeah, you can take the risk.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, which is why again we want to go deep dive into that in a bit, right? But what was the greatest lessons from that experience as a student entrepreneur?
Help is everywhere. I think one of the biggest things, and this is something in which maybe it's taken for granted, right? But when I was doing it as a student entrepreneur, help is everywhere. All you have to do is ask.
Right.
Really, you just have to ask. And also, you got to give yourself a chance. It's very important that you give yourself a chance. Some will go, I don't have the time. I have to study. I have this. I have that. Right. But if you are not paying the bills, you are able to juggle your studies well. Can you give yourself, the question is, can you give yourself a chance? If you got an idea, can you say, I'm going to try this out for 6 months and be fair to yourself and give yourself that 6 months, right? So you got to give yourself a chance. That's one of the things I've learned. And again, although help is everywhere, opportunity is also everywhere. I mean, the fleet of drivers that I managed to get for my business were from my classroom.
Yep.
So I looked around and I asked, do you want to work, right? Do you want to be a driver for me, right? And that's how the fleet grew.
Just the creativity, right? And just really looking beyond what you can see. And, I mean, as an entrepreneur myself, I can relate to that very strongly. It's the ability to create, the ability to solve problems.
Yes.
I think that starts with that.
Yep.
It starts with that. You saw a problem, you say that I want to potentially solve it, use my spare time productively.
Yep.
Extend that value to society. Education. I think you pivoted into education eventually after your startups, right? You came back to Singapore and then you became educator at ITE for almost 10 years.
Yes, that is correct.
And you mentioned also in your LinkedIn that you found your true passion there.
Yeah.
Explain to us why.
Well, I think, okay, so being an educator wasn't something that was planned out, shall we say. I think I told you this. I thought, hey, so I started businesses. I had my exits. The things that I wanted to do, I've already done. When I was young, I wanted to be a pilot. So I managed to do that as well.
Wow.
I didn't put it in my LinkedIn, but yeah.
Okay.
I was very interested in dance, and I also managed to be a dance instructor. So I tried.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I tried salsa. I love it. Okay.
Wow, yeah.
So I tried all that, and I was thinking, maybe I would like to share what I've learned, what I've experienced, and how can I do it with the maximum impact. And I thought at the same time, okay, maybe being a lecturer was actually quite cool. Still is cool, man. Still is cool, right? So I tried. So before I actually went to ITE, I did lecturing, postgrad lecturing. I did it with a private school here, and then after that, I thought, okay, I want to try some. But that was more adjunct, right? Okay. I wanted to try something full time and so on. So I went into ITE, and once I did that full time, I never turned back. I've been educating in entrepreneurship, in innovation, ever since until today.
What is it about students' passion, students' hunger that appeals to you? Right?
Energy, right? I think it's double-edged. So you have a group. You have students who are very. They have not experienced a lot of failure yet, right? So nearly everything is possible. And that is the energy about them. Okay, I feel revitalized every time I'm out with a group of students who are potential founders and just talking about business ideas. Right? Okay, I feel very, very revitalized. Okay. Yeah, it's not something you get. It's not something you get with hanging out with
slightly older folks. Nothing wrong with that, but I get what you mean.
Yeah. So. And it's there, and they're willing to try and take the risk, and that has a different mindset altogether when you're sitting with them.
Yeah. Okay, it wraps off on you, and you can kind of also mentor them and guide them, can become like a father to them. I think, of course, this series is the first. There are 4 other student entrepreneurs we're going to talk to, and a lot of them do mention that your mentorship plays a huge part as well. Okay, I think let's go into, there's a nice transition into entrepreneurship.
Sure.
Okay, I think it's the bulk of our podcast. We're going to talk about this. Especially for those of you that are interested in entrepreneurship, you might have heard it in the news, might seem sexy to you, whatever conceptions you have, we're going to talk about it. Let's start with the most basic. What is entrepreneurship?
Oh, okay. So that one, everyone has got a definition for it. Looking at problems and then after that coming up with a solution. Basically, trying to come out with solutions which may not even come from a particular problem yet, and so on. I think to me, not sure if this is going to be agreed upon by a majority, right, or so on. But again, hey, it's a podcast between us, right? Yeah. So I think to me, really, it's about having that one particular mindset, that character, that hunger to look at certain situations, to look at certain problems, to look at gaps, right? To go out and feel discomfort, and going to yourself and say, hey, hang on, I think I want to be able to do something about this. I think I can. I think I know someone who can, and they may have half a product or half a service. Yeah. So I may be able to link that, and I want to give myself a chance by trying to do all that for maybe a particular period of time.
I love it. That's an amazing definition. I think I resonate with that strongly. Of course, today's podcast is not about me. You all can check out Rebound with Resilience if you want to, but we started out because mental health, resilience was a gap. I've faced mental health challenges before, and I speak to people, and I know that it's not uncommon for people to suffer in silence, which is why we wanted to start a podcast dedicated to mental health and resilience for people to understand that, right? And of course, I do trainings and talks in schools as well, but it started out just like you mentioned, with the passion, with that hunger to say, you know what, I don't know anyone yet, I don't know anything yet, I have not spoken in any schools, but let me give it a shot.
Yes.
And a couple years later, I've spoken to over 100 schools, right? So it's just amazing, I love it. Yes, that's entrepreneurship, and I think just to add on one more thing, right? The word entrepreneur actually comes from French, right? Entre, which means to undertake a challenge, which is what you highlighted. Okay, but let's talk about the why deeper.
Okay.
Why entrepreneurship? Especially for students.
I'll start generally first.
Yeah.
Right. Many of our innovations, many of our world's or global solutions started off from that way. Right? Entrepreneurship or innovation or entrepreneurship and innovation propels humankind to the future. Right? By someone saying, I want to make this easier. That person can be the laziest person on the planet. And most of the time, it may be, be because they want to have a solution to make things more efficient. Right? But that's what the textbook says. Right? So entrepreneurship is not just something in which, maybe a common misconception. I go out there and I build something, I create something and I get money for it. It's about character building as well. As a person, as an individual undertaking it. Now, you may not necessarily need to have started a business. You may not necessarily need to have made your $1 million within your first 6 months. Right? Even if you don't do all that, there is still that character that you have created for yourself.
Yeah.
That resilience by going through that motion that you have built for yourself. And most of the time, we call it the entrepreneurship mindset.
I love it. I think people don't see that. We're going to talk about that in Misconceptions. Very strongly, people think that it's just, the glamour and the, everything. But you realize that doesn't come at all, especially not at the start.
Yes.
But what does come, like you say, if you stick it out, is character development. That's for sure. And that's why this podcast series, right, we extended it not just as for people interested in entrepreneurship, but for students in general. Because you can learn from certain values and certain tenets that entrepreneurs display. And intrapreneurship is innovating within a company, right? It's basically being creative, proactive within a company. You don't necessarily need to start on your own. Even though if you want to, that's fine as well.
Yep.
Right? So that kind of leaves us into. So now I think we know. Okay, I think maybe people. I was excited listening to you again. So I'm sure maybe the audience listening, you are also excited. Okay, maybe I can be an entrepreneur. But there is that doubt in you, maybe, right? Can I actually do it? Can I do it? I have studies, I have this and that. What would you say to people? If let's say they have this concern, like, do I have what it takes?
It doesn't have to be an either or, right? It doesn't have to be I'm an entrepreneur or I'm not an entrepreneur. And that's where the misconception comes in. Can I do it? If I'm going to do it, if I'm going to start a business, I'm going to try something, I require, I have to be in the front of the crowd. I have to be the one doing all the deals. I have to be doing all that, right? But essentially, we'll get to the part on resilience and how someone must be strong to get this done. But where I'm coming from is, again, it doesn't have to be either or. Someone who wants to be an entrepreneur doesn't need to be in a startup and doesn't need to be the main founder. Right? We have seen many companies where someone wants to be an entrepreneur, is in a startup, but is fine taking a slightly back role, right? Maybe at the back end, doesn't have to meet clients and so on. They are okay to put all the pieces together in the back end to make sure that the pillar, the foundation is there. Sure. Is that person an entrepreneur? Yeah, I would say so. That person is in a startup. They will also have to go as a team to get things done, but they're also a startup, right? And they are also entrepreneurs, right? Yeah. So it doesn't have to be either or. It can be both. And of course, now these days, with digital access and all the different ways to monetize a particular idea, there are many platforms now where someone can actually be an entrepreneur as a side hustle. So that means they can continue doing everything they want to do their studies and so on, and run a business in the background. We have seen so many e-commerce shops and so on doing that, right? So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. What if I start and then I inverted commas fail? I think these people have failed. What if I waste my time?
Good. Fail fast. If you start, my friends, you started.
Yep.
You have started. Well done, right? A pat on your back, okay? And no one gets it right the first time. The idea, right? Bringing in a bit of lean theory here from Eric Rice, right? He's saying if you're going to fail fast, right? Take your risk fast. Take your risk fast so that you fail fast and learn from it, and then get up and try again, right? So never be afraid of failing.
Okay.
This is really one of the advices that we can share. Never be afraid of failing. Never be afraid of rejection.
Okay, great. Love the answer. One more naysayer comment.
Okay, let's go for it.
Can I, not really naysayer, genuinely not maybe. Can I manage my studies and business?
That is up to you, right? Can you manage your studies and business? My question back, right? Can you link your studies and business? If you can link, you can find the link, I would say it's a lot easier to manage, right? So for example, when I started, I'm going back to when I was in Australia and when I was in university. So when I started my home movers business, there were so many things logistically, tax-wise, operations. I had no clue how to do it. It's the first time for me, right? So I was doing business studies at the same time. Perfect place, right? You would have logistics lecturers. You would have accounting lecturers, and they're more than willing to mentor, to sit down, to guide you, to tell you how it's done, to advise you on how it's done, right? So can you link it? Can you link what you're studying to what your business is? That's the question. Okay. Now, it may not be in the same course, but you know what you've got. You know who you are, you know what you've got, you know what you have. The question goes back to you. Can you link it?
Okay. Let's go to misconceptions. What is a common misconception about entrepreneurship you feel people need to know?
Entrepreneurs are rich, right? Entrepreneurs are wealthy. It's very glamorous. When you see entrepreneurs, especially those who are
exit for huge sum of money, right?
For huge sum of money and so on. You're looking at them as very, very confident people. You're looking at them as they've got it made. They've got all kinds of supports and so on. You never know how much they're shivering inside, right? You never know what they've gone through. Right? You never know if they're shivering on the inside. You never know how many times they failed. You never know how many times they have asked for help. Right? You do not know, or we do not know, how many times they've actually paid their staff and they had no cash for themselves.
Right.
So these are all the things about entrepreneurs that normally is a misconception because we think it's a very glamorous thing.
Yeah.
But what kept all these entrepreneurs going? So I'm moving away from the question of misconception, right?
Yeah.
But what kept all these entrepreneurs going is every time they face hardships, I can tell you, they ask themselves again the why. Why were they doing this in the first place? Were they trying to solve a problem? Were they doing it for themselves? Were they doing it for someone else? Were they doing it for the greater good, whatever that good is? What was the why? And that why kept them bouncing back in the face of adversity, and it really allowed them to rebound with resilience.
I love it. Yeah, I think that was beautifully explained. In fact, I'd like to invite students as well listening to this. You might not be running a business yet, right? But we are in the business of life, and you will face certain challenges, setbacks, and understanding your why, going back to your why, what drives you, the emotion behind it, whether that's your parents, whether that's proving somebody wrong, whether that's wanting a better life for yourself, whatever that why is, right? You should relook at it, right? Consider it, take some time. I think this is applicable, it's a powerful lesson. Even in life, is something we need to consider, why we do what we do. Finally, we're going to talk about spin-off. It's the reason why we're here as well, because you gave us the opportunity. So let's talk about spin-off. Entrepreneurship centers, not something that people might be familiar with. What is spin-off and what support does it provide?
Fantastic. Right, so SPINOFF, I think I mentioned earlier in our podcast, right? So SPINOFF is the Entrepreneurship Center. Singapore Polytechnic is the forward-facing arm. So we've got 4 verticals, or essentially 4 pillars on how we support students. So this is a shout out to all full-time students at Singapore Polytechnic, right? If you're looking for any entrepreneurial support, this is how we do it, right? So looking at our 4 pillars, we begin with learning. Right, learning entrepreneurship, or basically we call it entrepreneurship education. Where we stand apart, right? Besides what you learn in all your other modules, where we separate ourselves, and again this is open to all full-time students of Singapore Polytechnic. Where we separate ourselves is we provide white space modules. So essentially, if you got a business idea, you're looking to prototype, and you need time during the day. You need time during your lessons to create your product, to create your service, to test your assumptions, to go out and validate. This is the definition of a white space module. We give it to you, and we give you 4 credit points for you to... Yes, exactly. So that takes away a lot of the negativity of, I don't have time to start a business while I'm in school. So now when you're in school and you have modules like this, you are actually given time to start a business. Yeah. If you come into our center and say, okay, I'm taking a white space module now, and you're sitting here, I would tell you, mate, go out, go and validate, meet someone, because this is what you're supposed to do. Go and do a sale. Go and go and build your prototype. You don't know where to build it, I'll send you somewhere to go and build it, right? So that's one of our pillars. The next is we allow students to experiment. Now, not just in our white space module, but we give you internal funding too. Right? So this internal funding comes in the form or in the name of a small project fund, or essentially Kickstart Fund, where students can receive up to $4,000 in funding to build their prototype. Okay. Right? So you have the time, you are given the mentorship, you are given the financial resources, you are given a co-working space, you are given links to fabrication labs or experts to help you build your apps and so on. Everything's all there. Everything's all there, right? And then many a time we hear that students need help in networking, finding out more people, like-minded entrepreneurs and so on. So this is where we also come in, right, to organize competitions, events, networking sessions. Just this morning alone, we were part of a hackathon. Right? So we push you out there. We get sessions where founders meet each other. Because I think earlier on in the podcast we mentioned, everyone, some may want to be an entrepreneur, but they may not want to be the number 1 person. It is okay to be at the back end, but you're still in a startup. So some founders need techies, some techies need founders. Simple as that.
For sure. Both technical and also emotional support, right? Because when people come together, the energy, like you said, rubs off each other. Even I as well, some communities or entrepreneurs, it makes a difference.
It does.
One meeting there, just 1 hour, and the energy just lasts you throughout the week, because you see people who have struggles, you see people overcoming, getting sales, there's encouraging each other. I think that's what a center is for as well. Really giving that support.
Yeah, spot on.
And even if, let's say, you're not from Singapore Poly, right, you can, again, this podcast is released to everyone out there. Look for sources you can find support, right? It could be centers in your own school, whatever school you're in, or it could be grants in the government or places where you can find support. And support is really important. Maybe just elaborate a little bit on that. How important is culture support? How does SPINOFF provide that?
Culture support is something that's very intangible. I mean, you really can't put a number on that. And some people do not know how to measure that because you can't put a number on that, right? But it is one of the most important things, right? On providing emotional support, culture support, all these support systems, right? To boost or to push the student, the budding entrepreneur, the individual, to go and give it a shot, right? The energy, the part that we spoken earlier of if you did fail, it's okay. Come back. Yeah. Let's regroup. Let's talk to the rest of everyone that's sitting around. What are the different approaches we can do it? Yeah. And then let's try again. One of the best things. I've seen many entrepreneurship centers like that. And you are correct. All the IHLs, Institute of Higher Learnings, would have their own entrepreneurship center. So essentially, I'm speaking for Singapore Poly because I'm representing SPINOFF. But if you come from a different polytechnic, you come from you come from ITEs, you come from unis, everywhere has one. Go and reach out to them. Yeah. If you do not know how to find them, ask Kevin or ask myself. We will direct you as well.
That's what I love about it, Rafael. You don't limit this podcast to just Singapore Poly students. You want to open it up for everyone to listen and learn.
Entrepreneurship for everyone.
Amazing. That's great. Last question on this: if let's say they are from Singapore Poly, how can they apply to this center? Is there a qualification process?
No. Have the hunger, have the heart, have the curiosity. Come knock on our door. We are located at Block T19333. My name is Rafael. You can find us on all our social media handles. Just look for SPINOFF. Some will be spinoff.sp. Some will be spinoff_sp. Just look for us, right? And we'll take it from there.
Okay. Wow. I think with that, it's a very nice conclusion to the end of the first episode. It was amazing to talk to you about entrepreneurship. I got excited for the rest of the episodes and to release this as well. I believe also it provided you with some insight, piqued your curiosity a little bit about entrepreneurship. And if this lights a spark in you, right, definitely stay tuned, subscribe, wait for the next few episodes, or of course, if all have come out already, go and watch the other episodes. Okay, with that, anything to say, just to end up, any final message to
Parting words. All right. So remember, give yourself a chance. And if you have to fail fast. But just remember, be consistent. Right? It's always about the consistency.
Love it. With that, to see you. Take care. Stay resilient. And
take care.
bye-bye.
Stay resilient.